welcome to Pulibrus' Fireside chats. Not as good as everything else, but hey, it's something. So yeah, I'm just gonna say this. If you hear noise in the background, because I'm recording this in the final hours of 4th of July, so just heads up. Also, my birthday happened. It was the 3rd. Woohoo. Okay, so anyways, we're just gonna move on to the next part. Let's get right into the news. First, we're gonna focus on the protests that were happening. Here is something substantive that actually happened. De Blasio agrees to cut $1 billion from the New York police budget. Now, I'm gonna get to one very interesting part. You're gonna hear my opinion on one interesting part as soon as I read some more of the article. New York City Mayor Bill de Blasio is proposing a $1 billion cut to the New York Police Department's annual budget as calls grow around the nation for local governments to divert funding from law enforcement and put it towards social services. De Blasio said at a press conference Monday that his offices presented a budget to the City Council over the weekend that would achieve $1 billion in savings for New York police. He said the funds will be shifted to programs impacting young people in communities in a way that would help address a lot of the underlying issues that we know is the cause of many other problems in our society. Here's the thing. Why is a New York police department, why does any police department have more than $1 billion? Seriously. Why this? You seriously have $1 billion just lying around for the police? Yeah, I guess I'm just gonna have to say, defund the police. If they have that much money, we should 100% be defunding them. They don't need that much money. That's just the truth. We don't need to be spending billions of dollars it's like our military budget. We spend way more than the next 20 something nations. It's just why? Why? It's just stupid. Why? Come on. It's just why. That's all I can really say about it. Why did it even have to be that way to begin with? Okay, so the next story is coming from the, Capitol Hill Organized Protest, or Capitol Hill Autonomous Zone. 25 arrested during overnight protests at Seattle Police dismantle CHOP. A total of 25 people were arrested overnight in the area of Broadway and East Pine as protests continued after police dismantled the Capitol Hill Organized Protest Zone. Police used blast balls and pepper spray while making the arrests after people in the crowd began throwing bottles at officers, according to the department. Demonstrators continued to march and protest on Capitol Hill, downtown Seattle, and some marched to Mayor Jenny Durkin's house. The Seattle Police Department moved into CHOP around 5 a.m. Wednesday and returned to the East Precinct after abandoning the building nearly 3 weeks ago. I'm sorry, Andrea. I know this was kind of a thing you really liked, but this didn't become the next Zapatistas. I'm afraid that this autonomous zone of lefties has fallen. Maybe you could try again another day. Do one in North Carolina. I mean, why the hell not? Okay, so anyways, the next story is about our favorite foreign country, Israel. AOC Tlaib Jayapal McCollum threatened to condition U.S. aid over Israel over annexation. A letter addressed to the Secretary of State Mike Pompeo quotes a UN special rapporteur, I don't know how it is. Okay, so Jewish Insider reports that 4 congresswomen are currently circulating a letter among House members that would target military aid to Israel if the country goes with its proposed plan to annex portions of the West Bank. The letter, which is addressed to Secretary of State Mike Pompeo, is being pushed by Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, Pramila Jayapal, Betty McCollum, and Rashida Tlaib. It details how Israel's plan is in violation of international law and quotes the UN Special Rapporteur on conflict, who said that annexation would crystallize the 21st century apartheid, leaving in the wake the demise of Palestinians' right to self-determination. At the end of the letter, the congresswomen declared they will work towards conditioning military funding to Israel if the country moves forward with its plans. You see... apparently, even though the letter hasn't officially been released yet, it may have been in the time that this article was written, AIPAC already decried it. AIPAC opposes the letter being circulated by AOC, Jayapal, Rashida, and McCollum, which explicitly threatens the U.S.-Israel relationship in ways that would damage American interests, risk the security of Israel, and make a two-state solution less likely. Here's the thing. No, Israel is the problem on making a two-state solution a reality. Believe it or not, Palestinians don't want to agree to a two-state solution with you if you keep gobbling up your own country. Just stop. Then maybe you could say, hey, I want to have a two-state solution. Let's do a two-state solution, guys. Who's with me? You're not going to get a two-state solution by annexating more land. And here's the thing. Israel does not want a two-state solution. They want an Israel from the West Bank to the Gaza Strip. They want the entire land to be Israel. AIPAC wants that. And as much as I keep trying to say this, they might get it. It's because pretty much the entire caucus of both Republicans and Democrats are bought and sold by the Israeli lobby. Now, I know what you people might say. Some people might think that's anti-Semitism, apparently. Even though it's not. Because that's just the objective truth. Look, Israel cannot claim that they want a two-state solution when they keep annexating land. If they were literally defending themselves from just purely terrorist attacks, then you could make the argument, hey, all we want is a two-state solution and everybody can be happy. But when you keep annexating, you don't want a two-state solution. And that's the thing. They really don't. They want Israel to be complete, quote-unquote. Now, at this point, I think a majority of the Palestinians just want the killing to stop. That's the only thing. Two-state solution would be literally the only solution. And even then, it's like Palestine. They're not going to get much. They're pretty much going to get what's currently Palestinian territory in the end. It stinks, but at this point, Palestine literally just wants stop the killing. And yes, we should stop the killing. Let's stop killing everywhere. So, pretty much all I got to say on that one. But let's talk about some other foreign policy. Okay, so there was recently a resolution that was brought into the U.S. Senate to withdraw all U.S. troops from the Afghanistan war, pretty much completely ending it. The text of the specific amendment was literally just withdraw all U.S. troops from Afghanistan. Sounds pretty good, right? Rand Paul proposed it, as he does, libertarian. They do that. They do these anti-war things. Then it was brought to the attention to bring this amendment up. And there was a motion to pretty much throw away this resolution. Just table it and no more. Like, just completely get rid of it. Here's how the votes ended up being. The people who voted to table the amendment, which means to keep the soldiers in Afghanistan, are Alexander, Barrasso, Blackburn, Blumenthal, Busman, Capito, Carper, Cassidy, Collins, Coons, Cornyn, Cotton, Kramer, Crepo, Cruz, Ernst, Fireside, Fischer, Gardner, Graham, Grassley, Hassan, Howley, Hovind, Inhofe, Johnson, Jones, Kennedy, King, Langford, Loeffler, Manchin, McConnell, McSally, Menendez, Moran, Murphy, Perdue, Portman, Reed, Risch, Roberts, Romney, Rosen, Rounds, Rubio, Sassy, Scott, Shaheen, Shelby, Sinema, Sullivan, Thune, Tillis, Toomey, Warner, Whitehouse, Wicker, and Young. That was 16 Democrats. 16 Democrats voted, yeah, let's keep the soldiers in Afghanistan. Now, I think it's best we give credit to the people who actually had brains. Baldwin, Bennett, Booker, Braun, Brown, Cantwell, Cardin, Casey, Coates, Masto, Daines, Duckworth, Durbin, Gillibrand, Harris, Heinrich, Hirano, Kane, Klobuchar, Leahy, Lee, Merkley, Paul, Peters, Sanders, Schatz, Schumer, Smith, Stenenbaugh, Tester, Udall, Van Hollen, Warren, and Wyden made the right decision in this matter. And here's the thing, like, there's obviously differences between these groups of people. Like, I mean, you'll notice that a lot of the Republicans that voted nay seem to be the ones that are either trying to fly under the radar or just whatever. And I'm just be on the record saying, all the Democrats that voted to keep the soldiers in Afghanistan, screw them all. Like, no, Murphy was kind of warming up to me, but no, he's stupid, done. It's just, at the end of the day, it's just how it is. We're ruled by two pro-war parties with anti-war factions in both of them that are never going to see the light of day. Like Rand Paul, he could have ran against Trump as an anti-war Republican, but he didn't, because when the GOP is in power, he'll pull the party line. He's gonna pull the party line. Like, that's the thing. It's the problem with these two major parties. They're always gonna, like, for the most part, they'll at one point or another, they're gonna pull the party line. Like Rand Paul, don't you think he could have been a huge critic against Trump? Like, Trump trying to get involved in these foreign countries and stuff. He would have been like a sane, rational, good-hearted person of his political ideology would have been like, that is enough to warrant an impeachment. But he just decided, nah. Toe the party line. Brett Kavanaugh was hugely against the Fourth Amendment, but Rand Paul was like, I'll vote for him anyways. Anti-war Republicans and the anti-Trump Republicans, especially considering they just did this, is kind of a joke. Anyways, guess we should move on to the smaller candidate of the day. This candidate is known as Christopher Borkick for president. Who is Christopher Borkick? He was a former Navy pilot who is running for president as an independent because he wants to run as a nonpartisan, ethical leader. Like, he cites George Washington, as like, George Washington is the biggest reason why we need to, like, he's basically trying to be like, oh, I'm better than the two major parties. We need to blah, blah, blah. Okay, so what's his actual platform? Restore America Today. Here's what I can assume is at least partially his platform. Reaffirm the Constitution, elect virtuous leaders, spend wisely, term limits, observe God, remember 9/11, and embrace the future. That's his plan to restore America today. And he has an Oprah Winfrey quote to embrace the future. So yeah, I guess it's about time we get to the main topic of this video. We haven't done one of these in a bit, I think. So I think it's time we finally tackle an oldie but a goodie. Micheal Moore. Oh boy. Michael Francis Moore. I mean, he's kind of like, to an extent, some of you might be too young to remember who this man is. Well, I mean, if you're watching this channel, you probably have a decent idea on who Micheal Moore is, but I guess I should kind of explain who Micheal Moore is. He's an American documentary filmmaker, author, and activist. His works frequently address the topics of globalization and capitalism. You see, Micheal Moore, he makes documentaries, and a good majority of them are politically motivated. Now, what kind of politics is he, espousing? Here is what people have called him. People say that Moore is known for, quote, his fiery left-wing populism, and he said in a speech that socialism is democracy and Christianity. He is pretty well known for his outspokenness, I guess you could say. For example, 2004 seems to be his big year, as he was invited to both national conventions, and during the GOP one, John McCain, he was like, we need to stop being assaulted by this disingenuous filmmaker, and then everybody starts booing Micheal Moore, and then Micheal Moore is literally just sitting there, and everybody's just like booing him, and he's just like welcoming their hate and giving them, and doing like the L thing with his fingers and then flipping them off. And then he introduced Wesley Clark during a debate, and then literally said, like, I know what you're thinking. I want to see that debate between Clark and Bush, the general versus the deserter. He was an active supporter of Occupy Wall Street. He's this huge. He's even criticized the Obama administration sometimes. Like, during the 2011 military intervention in Libya, he suggested that Barack Obama should return his Nobel Peace Prize. And he praised Hugo Chavez. He said that universal health care should have been the goal and not the Affordable Care Act. He endorsed Bernie both times, I think. He's been a huge critic of Donald Trump. He now really hates WikiLeaks. I mean, stinks, but He's criticized corporate media. But he did criticize, like, even though he was a Russiagator, I guess, he criticized the corporate media by saying, you turn on the TV and it's Russia, Russia, Russia. These all shiny keys that distract us. We should be talking about the West Virginia teacher strike. What an inspiration that it would be, but they don't show this. He compared Trump to Nazi Germany. Like, Moore, he's pretty well known for his, like, eccentric left-wing, kind of figurehead. I guess you could say he's like the me of yesteryear. And I would say that's very insulting for a number of reasons. The biggest one being Michael Moore is way too scared to be me. No, but in all seriousness, no, I'm not Michael Moore. I'm not morbid. I'm not super morbidly obese, I guess I should say. I'm not Michael Moore size, I can guarantee you that. But anyways, we should get into some more things with Michael Moore. I gave you some of the positives, but here's another positive. He supported Nader in the 2000 election, and he supported Bernie in the two elections. But I guess we should get to I should give you another thing. The movies that I've seen of his are pretty good. I've only seen one of his movies, but it was pretty good. One thing I really like was that you go into the movie thinking that it's gonna be like this super anti-Trump movie, and it was gonna be like nothing but Trump hate, nothing but Trump hate, nothing but Trump hate, and it leads you into thinking that it's just going to be that. But then as you watch the movie, you soon realize it's not exactly that. Because he goes on to critique the Democrats for losing their base. He interviews people like Ojeda, who are like, I couldn't bring myself to vote for Hillary Clinton because she represents literally nothing I stand for. So, Moore has some positives, but I guess we should also be fair and acknowledge his negatives. And believe it or not, there are quite a few. And I think the biggest way we should talk about this is in the 2007 documentary Manufacturing Dissent. It's a film that is pretty much the story of two Michael Moore fans who are like super inspired by Michael Moore, and they love him and they want to do everything they can to support him. But then when they do some digging, they realize Michael Moore isn't entirely the person you think he is. And a lot of the things he does in his films... Yeah. Okay, so first, we should get into certain aspects. One thing... it even goes back all the way to the first film he did, Roger and Me. The Roger and Me film is about Michael Moore trying to get an interview with Roger Smith, the head of General Motors, who shipped a bunch of jobs in his home state of Michigan overseas, and he claims I could never get to Roger Smith. But they researched and they said they were able to assess that he did get an interview with him twice, but he never showed the interviews because I would assume that it was a better way to say oh, Roger Smith, he's just so separate from all of us. But I think it honestly just would have been better if he showed the interviews and maybe had him see that Roger Smith didn't give a shit about his employees, or maybe it was just because something Smith said in the interviews, in the supposed interviews. I guess I should say supposed, because Moore frequently denies that he even got to talk to Roger Smith. But it's just one thing. He also has a big thing about trying to play himself up. He's really self-centered, and he's really There's a reason why, if you're watching an episode of South Park, they make fun of him a lot. Well, actually, there's a separate reason, but we're going to get to that in a second, too. Because he literally comes off, like, so intense, like, so... He's got his head far up his ass. And, like, here's what he literally said. He literally said, when he, like, met Ralph Nader one time, he said, I am the new Ralph Nader. Nader should just quit and retire and let me be the new Ralph Nader. And it's like, And here's the thing. He kind of went quiet about that after 2000. Because, remember, I told you he supported Nader in 2000. He did not in 2004. Because he wanted to be smart and cool. And, like, completely disavowed him. I'm going to bring up clips from the Nader documentary, An Unreasonable Man. Here is Michael Moore in 2000 when he's talking explicitly about Ralph Nader.
If you don't vote your conscience now, when will you start?
Very passionate. Here's him 4 years later.
And when you go in the voting booth, don't go in there like, oh, this is going to make me feel good, though. I'm going to feel good voting for Ralph Nader because he's pure and I'm pure and I want to feel good. So I'm going to vote for Nader. Listen, my friends, your parents must have told you when you were 14, 5 minutes of feeling good, you got to pay for it for the rest of your life. Come on.
Gee, I wonder why Michael Moore, a prominent celebrity with a lot of name recognition, would change his mind after a huge backlash that happened in 2000 that people, quote, blamed on him. I can't think of a single reason why Michael Moore would change his mind on this subject. Oh yeah, because he's a careerist who changed his views for a quick buck. Like, even now, for some reason, like, while he was supporting Bernie, he was literally saying, who would be a good choice for the Democrats to run in 2020? Michelle Obama. It's like, no, Mike, no. But, he has this thing called a career, and, he can't stand on his principles too much, otherwise that'll break his bottom buck. You see, here's the thing, I don't care if I'm making, money on this. I don't make money on this YouTube channel now. But I stick to my guns. It's called priorities and honesty. Moore doesn't really have that. Especially considering there's some more controversies going on. His most controversial movie is the movie called Bowling for Columbine. Bowling for Columbine seeks to address the U.S.'s gun culture while also examining, other causes of, was it caused because of Marilyn Manson, or was it caused by blank or blank? He examines, U.S.'s, how much we love guns and such. But there are a decent amount of controversies surrounding the interviews that he does during this documentary. The first controversy is the least offensive, I guess you could say. He interviews Matt Stone, who is the co-creator of South Park, who is also a huge libertarian. So, he does an interview with him, and then he's like, they just talk, and Matt gives his views on the Columbine shooting, and, etc., etc. But then came one interesting, thing. You see, a little bit after the interview with Stone, because Stone has said it himself, like, he said, like, oh, I was not mischaracterized, or, he didn't miscue my statements or anything like. But a little bit after the interview with Matt Stone, there's a little cartoon that plays, like, a little bit after the fact, which is, like, the short history of Americans and guns. It's like, the average thing, like, it's exaggerated, it's, brings together his point and such. But Stone critiques the fact that the way it's animated, it's, like, very simple. The characters are incredibly short. They have, like, very simplistic cartoon, angles and such. Almost as if they are, like, basic shapes. You see where I'm kind of going with this? He made it in a style similar enough to South Park that there's an implication that Matt Stone himself made the cartoon to help Michael Moore or something like that. Basically trying to say, like, Matt Stone agrees with me, that's why he made this cartoon. He doesn't explicitly claim that Matt Stone helped him make this cartoon, but it's, like, obvious the implication is there. And Matt Stone kind of was like, what the F, dude? This is pretty screwed up, bro. Yeah. Whatever. Which kind of led to a bit of an animosity between the creators. But there's also another moment during the interview. During a separate interview in the movie. See, there's a moment where Michael Moore goes to a bank, and the bank, as like a fun little gesture to all of their people who open an account at the bank, they get a gun. They get a freaking rifle. Like, so Michael Moore, here's what he does. He walks into the bank, he opens an account, they give him his gun, and he walks out. And Michael Moore explains, like, this is really weird. Why does this bank just give you a gun? Just for opening an account. Like, they didn't do anything. They didn't check me. They didn't see if I had a background, like if I had a criminal record or anything. They just gave me my gun after I opened the account. But here's the thing. The people claimed that Michael Moore not only lied to them to get the interview, but also made it so that they would give him the gun for the interview. Like, they say, like, we run a background check, but Michael Moore but he told us he was making a documentary about, like, funny businesses in the US that are, like, strange little cool businesses, so the interview would be cooler if he actually got the gun. Now, of course, I guess it's fair to say that he should probably tell them that for the interview, because, I mean, if you were a gun owner and I'm like, hey, I'm doing an interview for an anti-gun thing, you probably wouldn't want to have me be interviewed. You wouldn't want me to interview you. But the problem is, he literally just supposedly lied to get the gun to him early. He misleads you. He misled you about the business. It's just screwed up. And, it sucks. But don't mislead people. Tell them the truth, my boy. But then the last thing, I think it was kind of the thing that superseded it all. See, he interviewed Marilyn Manson. Of course, he would interview Marilyn Manson during, Columbine. Like in a movie about Columbine, of course, he would interview Marilyn Manson. And Marilyn Manson gives decent points. You know, he's like, he says like, he tries to get Manson to be like, yo Manson, what would you do if you had seen the 2 Columbine kids? And Manson says like, I wouldn't tell them a thing. I would listen to them because this is the one thing they clearly needed. And like, he gives well-reasoned, defined answers to the questions. But apparently, Michael Moore like took some of the points that Marilyn Manson made and then deleted it from the interview and then claimed those points to be his own. It's definitely screwed up. And it should... And I definitely do disavow Michael Moore for doing bad things. And I guess overall, I'd say Michael Moore's pretty much just a guy who wants his career, like he wants to be paid for his work and etc. etc. He makes good movies, but you probably should just stick to making movies and maybe not entirely documentaries. Thanks for watching this video. Be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and click the bell to be notified when a future video of mine comes out. And if you're interested in more content from me, you can go to my website or follow me on Facebook, Twitter, or check out my articles on the Independent Political Report.